Hey guys, today we're talking about converting a narrowband image into a true color image, and at the same time I'm going to show you my Rosette Nebula, which has 40 hours on it. My name's John Robinson, the Astrotard. This is the Deep Sky channel. Okay, so let's talk about this image. So I'm going to show you how I made this image here. This is the Rosette Nebula, and right now you're looking at a true color version of it. And what I mean by true color is I captured this in narrowband, specifically hydrogen and oxygen. Just those two filters were used, and then I mixed it with RGB equal to HOO. Now, why did I choose that combination, and why do I say that represents true color? Well, here's the reason why. If you look at hydrogen, its color is basically red. If you look at oxygen, its color is basically greenish blue. Hence, an HOO for RGB works because H is red and green and blue is oxygen. And there you go. You've got it pretty much nailed down if you choose HOO. So converting narrowband to true color is as simple as mixing in an HOO. So let's take a look at what I've done on the HOO version of the Rosette Nebula. Now this is a 4-panel mosaic, and I've captured 10 hours in each panel, which means I've captured 5 hours of hydrogen in each panel and 5 hours of oxygen in each panel, for a total of 40 hours for all 4 panels. Now I'm still working on Sulfur because I do want to produce a Hubble palette SHO version, but I haven't captured all the Sulfur yet. When I'm done with all of that, it should be a 60-hour exposure. What I'm showing you here, this is the 40-hour exposure HOO true color version. Let's go to the Astro PC computer now, and I'll show you how I did this in PixInsight. Okay, we're wandering over to the Astro PC. I don't have a desk for it yet, so I'm still using the dining room table for it. And let's go ahead and we'll bring up PixInsight on this thing. All right, guys, so welcome to the masterful, huge PC here in the background. This is the Astro PC. And now I'm showing you PixInsight. I have obviously a very large screen here, but I've only captured a small area of the screen so that it'll fit on YouTube and fit on whatever viewing screen you're watching. So obviously this is PixInsight. Let me show you a little bit about what I've done here. So we're talking about the Rosette Nebula. I have captured about 400 subs on this target, and we're just talking about hydrogen and oxygen. So I have it's a 4-panel mosaic. Each panel has 50 hydrogen and 50 oxygen for a total of 100 subs per panel, and then there's 4 panels, so 400 subs. You can see all those subs here in the light folder. I have a total of 543 because since I've done hydrogen and oxygen, I'm also working on Sulfur. And when Sulfur is done, I'll produce an SHO Hubble palette version. But for now, we're just looking at the HOO version as I indicated before. So basically, I ran the script. It's the batch preprocessing. At the time, I didn't run the weighted batch. I just did the regular batch preprocessing. And did the normal, add your bias, your darks, your flats, and your lights, and let this thing run. And, you know, it kind of produced, you know, the images that you would expect. So here under Q1, for example, in quadrant 1, here's the H1, and here's what it looked like when you open that guy up. It looks like this. Comes in with the rejection high, rejection low, get rid of that, and this is what it looked like. So this was quadrant 1. So I have a quadrant 1 for hydrogen, 2, 3, and 4. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, and here's 4. Similarly, I have the same thing for oxygen. And then the next step is obviously you need to orient or rotate these things. So basically put them in their position within the panel. I have videos on how to do that, so I'm not going to show you guys what I did here. But basically, here's position 1, here's position 2, 3, and there's 4. You got them all together. From that point, we use the gradient merge mosaic process, image integration, gradient merge mosaic, and then we added these 4 files here: H1, H2, H3, and H4, all the registered files. And then we went ahead and just executed that, and we'll let that run in the background. So this is the faster PC. It ought to be running a lot faster. So this is basically going to stitch together those 4 different registered quadrants and produce one image. I think PixInsight does a pretty good job of this. The only thing about it is sometimes it leaves a little bit of a cross pattern that you might have seen in some of my videos, and sometimes that requires some cleanup. So I did this for both hydrogen as well as oxygen, and also I did it on quadrant 4 for the sulfur, since I have enough sulfur data in quadrant 4 to show you today as well. So I'm sort of talking while this thing is running, and I'm hoping that it finishes processing soon so I can stop talking. Okay, here it is. The interesting thing about this gradient merge mosaic is you can sort of see the image here was tilted, and this one was also tilted. It didn't come back absolutely square, which to me was always a surprise, because you know, when I created the capture in Sequence Generator Pro and told it where to go and, you know, defined the quadrant, it looks square to me. But it captures these, and somehow there's a slight rotation when it captures these. I'm not exactly sure why. So you have to trim that excess off. Anyway, when you're done, this is what your H would look like. Here's my H. And then similarly, here's my oxygen. So you can just we can compare those two side by side and see what they look like. Hydrogen versus oxygen. You can see the hydrogen is obviously much stronger than the oxygen. Having said that, though, oxygen is pretty strong. So as I showed you in the picture, hydrogen is mostly red, and oxygen is more of a bluish green color. So that's why oxygen will be the blue and the green channel, and hydrogen will be the red channel. So that's how we're going to mix them. And so the way you mix that is then you just go into Pixelmap here, and you just say H for red, O for green, and O for blue. It's that simple. So I'm talking about these 2 files here into those 3 channels here. Hit the square button here, and voila, here's what you get. This was my first HOO. And from here, I basically went and did an automatic background extraction. I let that guy extract and get rid of some of the... I can't remember if I let this finish or not. Sometimes automatic background extraction has a negative impact to your image. And in fact, this does not look good to me. It's sure, I got rid of some of the red and the green, but it also made some of the edges red, which I don't think is a true correction. So I don't like that image. I actually threw that one away. But I did go ahead and did a starless version of this. So once I had the HOO here, then I went ahead and removed the stars using the nebula, and then created the stars this way. You've seen me do that in the other videos. So the way I did that was I just dragged HOO down here, created a duplicate, called that Neb. We'll call this one Neb 1 since we've already done that. Neb 1. Minimize this guy. And then we went into the starless mode, and to remove the stars out of this guy, we just let the star remover tool run. This is the setting that I use for the star remover, and I let that guy run here just like that. Okay, so here's the image without the stars in it, and that's the nebula, and that thing took a lot longer to run than I thought, so I did a little pause there. But yeah, so now I've got the nebula. After I've tweaked it a bit, I've got the stars, and then I also, for whatever reason, I was experimenting with just doing this on hydrogen as well, just to sort of get a sense of it. So this nebula here is obviously after I've done a lot of stretching and a lot of tuning, and this was sort of what I was going for here. The reason I had an HNeb here was I was using this as my mask. I actually applied the HNeb without stars to the regular neb, and then you can kind of see what that looks like here. So right now we're protecting the background and we're just working on the foreground. And what you can do here is, you know, just sort of do the color correction. Sorry, not the color correction. The curve transformation. And I was doing lots of things like this. You know, adjusting the sky up and down to produce some good colors. The other thing I did while I had the mask on there was do the unsharp mask, so I could just kind of sharpen up some of the areas inside. I also used this mask while I was doing a local histogram equalization, so just to sort of brighten it up towards the center. You can kind of see the result of that thing. And so this is after all that stretching and pushing and pulling. So this is the nebula that I ended up with. So once I had this done and I did all that stretching and pulling and sharpening and so forth with the HNeb as my mask, then I went ahead and just used a little Pixelmap to add the stars back in there. So I said HNeb, or sorry, not HNeb, but I said neb plus stars, just like that, to produce this image. And I think maybe I was also mindful of the fact that, you know, Astrodon 3nm filters and narrowband filters in general have a tendency to show more nebula and less stars. So as a result, sometimes I like to do the 1.25 times the stars to make the stars a little bit brighter. I think that's what I did in this case. So here's kind of what I ended up with for the image. And then I thought maybe that was a little bit too red, so I toned it down a little bit. So again, here was here's what I ended up with after I tweaked it a bit, sort of a more toned down red. And I looked at some other sample images using a one-shot color camera, and I thought, you know what, that's a little too red. And so I tuned this down a little bit more. So now it's sort of a reddish pink, and it matches a lot of the one-shot color cameras that I saw. So yeah, and then finally I think I took the image into Paint Shop Pro or GIMP and I cleaned it up. So this was my final image. Sorry, not this one. Yeah, this one, final image. This is it. This was my Rosette. There's one more thing I want to do. So I've been working on the fourth quadrant Sulfur. So I have this much data in the fourth quadrant. So I went ahead and I added that. Here's what is yet to come. So I combined, so here's what the SHO looks like in the fourth quarter. And then I rotated a little bit so that it would line up with the other images that I did. So this is after the rotation. And then here's what it's going to look like. So I superimposed that fourth quarter quadrant of SHO into the HOO, just to sort of give a sense of, okay, this is what's coming. As soon as I collect enough data in the other three quadrants, I'll be producing an SHO version of this Hubble palette as well as the HOO True Color. Okay, that's all I have to show you for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Now let me show you this comparison between my Hubble using the narrowband to a one-shot color True Color. Tell me which one you like. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later.